All right. Good morning, everybody out there in Hobby Land. Time for another episode of Hobby Hotline. Must be Saturday morning. Welcome. I want to just welcome everyone, and also say if you're listening, we're getting thousands of downloads on the audio version of this show, which is great. Thank you for that. Not complaining, but just so you know, if you're listening to this on audio, this is a live Saturday morning show. So what you're hearing in the audio version is actually taking place live. We take call-ins. It's 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain, and 8 a.m. Pacific. And so if you want, I appreciate you downloading the show. We all do. But if you actually want to hear yourself on that download, call into the show. Those are the times, and we're a live show. And so to my right on the screen, we have Chris Harris from StaleGum.com, and below both of us, only on the screen, not in rank, is Jeremy Lee from Sports Cards Live. Welcome, gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning, John.
So, how's your weekend going so far? I know it just started.
Yeah, like you said, it just started. Hopefully we get some good callers today to make this.
Call in.
Let me put, speaking of
that, let me put the on the screen. There we go. So there's the call in. Click on the link, call in, and we'll bring you on. Whatever you want to talk about, either something we're already talking about and you agree or disagree with, or you want to talk about something on your mind. The first thing that I think it's probably the biggest story. It's not a huge news week, but the fourth, if you will, trying to be the fourth entrance into the big time graders is CSG, and they've announced that in February they will be starting to take sports cards as subs, and they announced their pricing structure. And so their pricing structure is $8 for bulk subs. That's 50 cards or more. $15, I believe, for 45-day, and $100 for 5-day. And I'm sure there's some other ones, but those are what they announced. And so they're going live here literally in a few weeks. And as someone who grades, I know Jeremy is into grading. I'm not sure if Chris is, but okay. But
I'm the wrong person to ask.
But you're in the hobby, and you have your finger on the pulse. I think what's going to happen here, playing armchair analyst here, with the others backlog, PSA, BGS, and SGC, and them being new and sort of kind of coming with a little bit of pedigree already. They're not brand new. They're doing comics and coins and a lot of other things, so they have some expertise, at least in the grading and slabbing line. I think they're going to get people who don't want to wait and say, hey, I believe in this company. I think they're good, they're legit. I think they're going to get an influx fairly quickly of people subbing to them, even just to dip their toe in the water. Hey, I'm just going to send 10 cards, who cares, $100 and see what happens, and what they look like. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see. I think they're going to be probably busy to start with, and then I think that might ramp up, and then we'll see where it goes from there. Jeremy, Chris, kind of your thoughts, or anyone else in the chat?
I'm excited for the new entrant. I think that's a good thing. And they have pedigree in terms of their graders, because these aren't rookie graders. They managed to woo over a couple, I believe, senior type graders from Beckett Grading Services. So they're not brand new. That's a good thing. I think people are aware of that already. And they're bringing a new slab to the table. It's a little bit different. If you go to their website, they talk about the features of it. I'm impressed by it. And the pricing sounds actually quite favorable compared to what else I've heard of that's happening out there. With some of these temporary, they call them temporary price increases. Are they going to stay that way at PSA, BGS? I don't know. But I think if anybody's gonna be able to challenge and for any significant or meaningful piece of the market share, these are the guys to do it. So I think it's going to be exciting. But we'll have to see how the hobby accepts them, and from all the different sports and genres. And I'm excited for it. I don't know that I'm going to rush off and send a box in for grading right away. Plus, I'm north of the border, so it's a little bit different anyway. But I'm excited. I think they've got a good shot at competing, legitimately competing with PSA and BGS.
The thing is, for almost 20 years now, grading has been dominated by the same three companies: PSA, SGC, BGS. Is there really room for a fourth?
That's the $1 million question.
We haven't had a fourth grading company really since GAI kind of came into the hobby about 2001, 2002-ish. They really didn't last that long.
Yeah.
And are collectors going to send their cards to this company, CSG, that may or may not be around in 4 or 5 years? Because you don't see many GAI cards and slabs anymore. I think most of them have been pretty much crossed over or cracked open.
I think one thing that's going to help them, Chris, that might be the difference maker is like myself and Jeremy were mentioning. They're not completely unknown. They've done this a while in other forms with comics and coins and concert posters. So they're not completely just from the ground up, built from the ground up. They've already existed. They're just kind of taking on the cards. One thing they've also announced, they are using automation in grading the centering of submitted cards. Now, I don't know. They didn't get into specifics what that means exactly. They just said automation will be used into the centering factor of sub cards. I'm assuming if that works, that will be good. But it's like anything, right? How is that going to work? Is it going to be successful? Their slabs, their flips, people either love them or hate them. There's really no in between if you've seen them. I kind of like them. The other thing I was a little disappointed from their press release is, those prices I quoted were for just the grade, no subgrades. But you can get subgrades, but it's going to cost you $10 a card. I would have liked to see them include that in the original price rather than an add-on price. But, automation's coming. If you want to, as far as I know, they're the first one to announce that they're going to that it's in play. I would love to see how that works and what they're using and all the sort of parameters around that. But so they're coming in full bore here and trying to make a big splash right away. And so, the other three probably, as they always do, are going to take notice. And, what I think will happen too, which is good, if you like PSA, SGC, or Beckett, is this company's going, CSG is going to force those guys to kind of up their game. That's what competition does. It makes you be better. And so if they come in there and really a bunch of people sub, I'm not opposed. I don't have anything put aside like tagged for them per se, but I'm not saying I wouldn't throw 5 or 10 cards their way and just to see in hand how that process goes and what those cards look like in hand.
So when you say automation, how is that going to work though? Is it just going to be they're going to scan the card and measure centering that way? Or is it going to be double checked by a second set of human eyes? Because
I don't think we know.
If the scanner doesn't work, I don't know.
I don't think we know. I don't think we know the answer to that.
Hey, they didn't, like I said, they didn't give.
We don't know what they mean by automation exactly at this point, so it'd be speculating. But I want to just comment on, Chris, your comment earlier about is there room for a fourth company? And I think there is, because the hobby is a lot bigger right now than it was a year ago, just in terms of the amount of cards being slabbed, the amount of people, the amount of cards that are now worthy of slabs. We're also seeing both PSA and Beckett are trying to, kind of nudge people towards not submitting cards that are not worth, say, $100, something like that. So I think that if when John mentioned those prices earlier today, $8 a card for a bulk sub, I don't think you can that pricing is sort of unavailable from the other big two. And SGC's been around a long time, as everybody knows. I don't think they have a very big piece of the market share. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to guess, but I don't think it's very significant anymore. Beckett seems to be having a lot of issues.
Has their audience.
Of course. Beckett, as does Beckett, but Beckett's had challenges. I think they've lost some customers lately. A lot of their loyalty, they is just kind of sort of starting to, some of it is starting to evaporate on them. And then the comment about, more competition breeds people having to step up their game. I think PSA is going to step up their game just by the virtue of the transaction. So I don't know that a fourth competitor in the space is going to change any part of PSA's strategy. I think Beckett Grading Services needs to have them on their radar and have some concern, and SGC especially. That I could see some SGC customers moving over, maybe not the loyalists who've been with them for 20 years, but maybe more some of the guys who went there earlier last year because of the delays at PSA and Beckett.
Yeah, Bobby Baseball here asked a good question. Is CSG going to do auto authentication on cards right out the gate? I didn't see any mention of that. I don't think, at least initially, they're going to offer that. I think that's a sort of an acquired trade and an acquired skill. I don't know if have those guys.
John, what do you think? Is it even necessary for, like, I understand that you can get in-person autographs and you might want those the card graded and the card or the auto authenticated and the card graded and slabbed. But if it's a pack pulled card, I've never seen the purpose of authenticating a pack pulled autograph card.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's what the commenter was getting at or not.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I guess, and here's the thing. Someone say, well, if it's smudge, but we can see that. Like, I don't need, someone else to say, hey, it's smudge or it's running off the sticker. I mean, I think we can make those determinations. I think it's an added feature. I think, when PSA or when SGC does it or Beckett does it, it's in addition to what they're already providing. So it's kind of that extra value. If you're in retail, you've heard that saying before. I think that's why it's done. I don't think it's a necessary evil, if you will. And, as far as in-person stuff, that's some companies will authenticate. I think I don't want to speak for Bobby. If you can comment back, if that's what you mean, like in something you get in person, but you want it authenticated for potential resale or trade value down the line. I don't think they're ready to do that by any means.
John, SCA Sports Cards makes a good point. He says price point will probably initially get the new breed of collectors. I think it might. That's very possible. I think it might also get a lot of, like I said earlier, those bulk sub people who aren't going to be willing to bulk sub for the new minimum prices by the big two, might be motivated to go with CSG for bulk subs. And I do still think that in time CSG will become recognized simply because they're a big company, lots of money behind them. I think maybe Chris made the comment, or someone in the comments made a comment that they may not be here in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I'm going to gamble. I'd bet against that. I would bet that they're going to be here to last longer than GAI, AMA, some of these other companies that have kind of come and gone. SCD back in the day,
Yeah.
I think these guys have money and they have business experience, and they didn't put the cart before the horse. Like, we've known about that. We've known they've been coming for a few months now, since the summer, basically, even late spring maybe. And they didn't just come out and do it willy-nilly. Like, you don't take that much time and not get prepared. I don't think. I'm hopeful, but you never know. So I think these guys are, you see a lot of comments, and someone said, I'm a PSA guy. Logan Ward, I'll always be a PSA guy. Like, I get that 100%. But I think that, over time, let's see what happens. It's not going to happen in the first couple months, but give it a couple years, 3, 4, 5 years. I think they're going to be a player. That's my forecast.
Yeah. And
I think they have a better shot than either GAI did 15 years ago or any other Johnny-come-lately startup today, mainly because they're part of a larger conglomerate that grades a lot of other things, mostly coins, but also I think they also grade comic books, postage stamps, casino chips,
and they're capitalized.
45 records. They grade.
And let's they also, I believe their names are Broom and Western. They also plucked Beckett's top two guys from them, and so they're coming in strong. Let's put it this way: if they're going to go down, they're going to go down swinging, and it'll be interesting as someone who likes grading, who deals with graded cards. It's going to be interesting to watch the dynamic unfold, not just with PSA, but even with Beckett, which Jeremy, you mentioned they've had some pratfalls, and I think if anyone's kind of lost the most traction, it's probably them, and so it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if they're going to unseat. I don't think they're going to unseat PSA, if you will, but it may affect, the race as far as for 2, 3, and 4 and what order those go.
I see PSA pulling out even further ahead over the next few years, and CSG maybe clawing some of this market share away from Beckett and SGC. That's what I see happening. And I'm very bullish on PSA right now with the transaction and their new leadership, which is collector driven. I believe, I hope, I pray.
Yeah, I was gonna say I gotta wait and see. I'm hoping you're right, Jeremy, but you never know. When you get into you're in the corporate world, I'm in the corporate world for real jobs. You never know which way this can go. Being privatized, I think, will maybe help them potentially more than hurt them. They don't have to go through 10 hoops probably anymore as they once did, and so we might see stuff happen faster because of that. Whether it be
they save money on compliance costs by going private too, and that's money they can plow into the business. So.
Yeah. All right. So what else we got?
We have any callers?
Anyone? Yeah, call in.
Anyone?
All right, so let's move on to this next topic. Something I'm familiar with. I apologize to Jeremy in advance. I know in Canada they're not allowed to do this as of yet, or hopefully maybe someday. But the fractional share market kind of really bust on to the scene in 2020. Again, people were kind of, oh man, this is cool, or that's goofy. You don't really own the actual item, so kind of both sides of the spectrum. I dabble in it with rally and collectible. Truth be told, I think I've put money into 4 or 5 items. Nothing, just whatever strikes my fancy. Not big money. I'm talking about between $50 and $100 a piece. The last thing I did was about a month ago was the Jackie Robinson signed bat. And so anyone knows me knows I'm a big J-Rob guy. So I had to do that one. But one thing I'll say is when these notifications come on my phone, hey, this IP, this offering is now live. Get if you want it. Now's your chance. And literally 10, 15 minutes later, I get another one saying, thanks, everybody. It's been filled. It's closed. And we'll see you next time type of deal. And so these things are selling out quick, whether it's big money people buying as much as they can, if it's mid-tier people like myself buying 3 or 4 shares, what have you. It was a debate whether this would actually fractional shares would stay and be a thing for real. And based on my observations, a little bit on the inside and the outside, it looks like they are. I mean, these things are selling out like hotcakes, almost no matter what they are, and some of these platforms not only just offer sports cards, but even other things, watches, purses, sports cars, not cards. And it's just the stuff. It's just amazing to see how fast these things are selling out. And, if you ask me my opinion, I said, I don't know. We'll see. But at this point, I got to say, I think this is going to be around to stay at least for a while. Just what you guys think.
I'm aligned with that. I think it's here to stay. I think there's a place for it. I think there's a big place for it. I think a lot of collectors are going to kind of push back on it because of the whole I want to hold my cards in my hand position that most of us have, myself included. But like you, John, I'm willing to throw a few bucks at it for if I could. I just don't have a social security number, which is a prerequisite, but I would definitely throw a few bucks at it. But as I've said before, I would not take that money away from my regular collecting habits. And regardless of what the veteran collector thinks, wants, likes, thinks should be the way of the hobby, doesn't matter. Fractional ownership doesn't care what you think. Fractional ownership cares that like you said, John, they sell out in 15, 20 minutes. That's the only indication that really matters to them, and that's the signal that the rest of the hobby needs to really sense, because it's here to stay. And that signal, it tells us that these things are that it's not relying on the traditional collector. And if it is, those collectors they're not admitting it out loud. They're not on social media telling us, hey, I'm willing to put hundreds, thousands, whatever into these fractional shares. But the fact of the matter is, I think it's important for the hobby. And by the hobby, I don't mean just pure investors who are coming in to buy fractional shares. I mean people who have been collecting for however many years. If you consider yourself a collector and you want to hold the cards, that's great. But again, these fractional ownership companies and these offerings are selling out. Doesn't matter what you and I think. Doesn't matter what the people in the chat thinks. Doesn't matter what the greater hobby thinks. If these things are selling out, that's what matters. So I think it's here to stay. And also, those two PSA 10 Wayne Gretzky cards that sold in December, the O-Pee-Chee and the Topps, O-Pee-Chee 1.29 million, Topps 720. Rally Road purchased that Topps card, and they're going to be offering it soon. That tells me that the traditional collector also needs to consider, if you have a lot of cards in your collection with some good value and you like seeing that, you need to understand that these fractional companies are partially responsible for our cards going up in value. So, love them or hate them, you can't have your cake and eat it too, sort of thing. I think we just have to become accepting of it, let it have its place, let it mature and become what it's going to become over the next few years and into the future. Because like Dr. Beckett said on my show, Sports Cards Live, 2 weeks ago, these things are, you can't argue with the fact that they're here. And it's, he said, grading shook up the hobby in the mid 90s, late 90s. Then we had breaking shook up the hobby in the 2000s. And now it's like fractional ownerships are shaking them up now. He sees it as that along that sort of trajectory. I'll leave it open to you, Chris.
Well, speaking as one of those traditional collectors, this is not for me. I'm not interested. And this only really seems to be it seems to me that only the kind of tentpole cards are being made available on these platforms. Like high grade vintage cards that would sell for, 6 digits, like the Gretzky rookie, and not Zion rookies or newer cards.
Well, not to cut you off, Chris, I think the reason for that is, Gretzky's career's over. It's a safer investment. I think the companies, they don't want to offer a Zion because that he blows out his knee, this week, and you got a bunch of people bearing with torches at your door, like, hey, I want out, I want my money back. And but no, I didn't mean to cut you. I think that's why, though. That's what's been done has been done in the card. We're seeing these vintage cards with these guys' careers be many of them are passed on, just continuing to rise. And I think that's where the angle they're coming from. But go ahead. Sorry about that.
But it is a niche market, and I realize it's not for me. And that's fine. Not everything has to be catered toward me.
Well, what I Chris, what
1/100th of a Jackie Robinson card. Be my guest.
What
I'd
I like
rather have
about
the whole thing.
Sorry, Chris, I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but I want to say what I like about what you are saying is that you are saying it's not for me, but if it's for you, go ahead. And that's my position too. I just get a little, I don't know. I think it's kind of, I don't know what the word is. It almost, when people say, it's not for me, it's stupid, it's this, it's that. I just think, open your mind a little bit and consider that what's not for you isn't exactly what's, might not be not for other people too, right? We have to kind of open up I just want to be open to any sort of activity in the hobby. But there are some comments I noticed which I think have a ton of merit. This sort of thing like, are the people, can we trust the people running these companies? Conflict of interest, are SEC disclosures, the level of regulation, how do you exit, how do you make money, what's their market on, what are the markets on their apps going to look like, is there going to be liquidity? All very legitimate questions. For me, for John, people who are would be willing to throw a couple $100 here and there, I don't really even care about that stuff because I'm not putting in money that if I lost it, I'd be really, it would bother me that much. I don't want to lose any money, don't get me wrong, but if I'm putting a couple $100 towards a Honus Wagner or a 52 Tops Mickey Mantle and I lose it because of whatever reason, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. So if I were coming in investing $100,000 onto their platforms, I'd take a much closer look at the fine print. Yeah,
great point. Read what, before you put it, like most they're SEC regulated. Collectible sends me like it looks like my stock statement I get once a month. It looks, the first time I got it, I was like a little bit, it kind of surprised me. And so, they obviously have rules they have to follow, but you want to read their policies as well before, especially if you're going to throw a lot of money at it. I'm not in that bracket, I'd say, at $50 to $100. My stance too with it is kind of, I don't know if you're going to lose, I don't know if you're going to gain either. I'm just doing it. It's kind of a fun thing. I did it kind of to talk about it, even on my show, how it's going, what it entails, and that sort of thing. But, most of the comments in the chat are kind of echoing what you mentioned, even what Chris mentioned and Jeremy, like, hey, it's not my thing, but I don't mind it. It's just not for me. So,
well, and John, we got to keep in mind that it's also still in its infancy. This thing is like less than a year old as far as, the hobby really being aware of it. So, I mean, fractional ownership's been around for a long time in other industries and investments, but as far as the hobby goes, it's young. It's going to evolve. It's going, these companies will, I've heard forecasts like there could be 20 of them by the end of the year. Well, there very well may be, but how many will there be left in 5 years? Will there be consolidation among these entities? Likely, probably, maybe, who knows? But I can't wait to look back on it every year. We should be reviewing this thing every year and discussing what happened the last year. How has it grown? How has it evolved? Where is it at now? How is the hobby accepting it into our normal world, or the traditional hobby world, and take it from there? That's kind of my.
You mentioned there may be as many as how many? 20 of these
by the end of the year.
By the end of the year.
I think
we know that some of them have agreed to be regulated, but you got to figure that some of those 20 aren't exactly on the level. And what happens if someday you spend a lot of money on one of these? What happens to your shares if they just go out of business?
Well, those cards don't evaporate or disappear. So at some point they would have to be, sold and the proceeds distributed pro-ratably among the shareholders. Less fees probably. But they are right. I think you said, Chris, if they opt to be regulated, I think anytime you're offering an investment vehicle, which this is, you need to have the SEC involved to some degree, and there is a level of SEC regulation over these companies that are doing it publicly. I'm sure there's hundreds of private card investment clubs and funds going on out there. I know there's several for sure. And I'm sure there's a bunch of guys we know that have gone in. I made the comment the other day when I had Dr. Beckett on the show a couple weeks. I said, when you pay more if you take the Gretzky rookie, for example, that sold for $720,000 and you buy it for $720,000, you bought bulk. You bought all the shares at once. If you're then going to sell those units to the public, you're going to upcharge it. You need to get a lift, and you do. And that's what happens when you buy something in a smaller quantity than in bulk.
Yeah, and what we're going to see, it's like anything else, right? Something takes off. You just get all these new companies putting their name in the hat and doing it. And that's where I think you got to be careful, is with some of these upstarts or copycat, if you will, is reading the fine print, making sure they're legit and not in, some back alley type of a company. And yeah, because that's going to happen. It's not if, it's just when, or it's probably already happening. Is be careful with these. Even like you mentioned, Jeremy, there are hedge funds with cards and different things going on. Just that are sort of under the current, under the surface, that aren't as out front, and that would always make me nervous. Like who's at least with the bigger companies and the SEC regulation. But if you're doing something sort of under the table, if you will, you have no sort of legal recourse if they just close in the middle of the night and leave town, sort of like selling tonic.
Or if you're selling shares and cards that you don't actually have. That's what worries me about this model.
Right, but it's the same thing. It's, to me, the similarity there, Chris, is with selling a share of Apple or Amazon. You don't actually have it, except that you have it on your screen when you log into your account. Same thing here. You log into your account on their apps. You have that asset being that share, and you can sell it on their marketplace, which these guys, they do have.
What I'm saying is that, you can sell a share of that, but what if they don't actually have that card?
Well, so now we're talking fraud.
48 leads of Jackie Robinson, but they don't have that, and they never did. That's what worries me about this.
Yeah. I agree, and it is fraud.
That's where trust comes down to trust. A lot of it is trust, reputation. Dr. Beckett also said on my show when we were chatting, he said, they're not all these companies are not going to be created equal, just like every industry and players in it, right? Every company is a little bit different based on the people running it. So there's going to be an element of trust, just like the hobby puts trust into PSA, BGS. We put trust into Panini Topps Upper Deck, that the autographs are real, that the memorabilia is real. There's a big element of trust in our hobby, and reputation is super important. So I'm not too worried about them not owning the card that they are offering shares of, Chris. That's not a concern I have, but I mean, I might be a little bit more frivolous than others if that's something I'm kind of willing to just assume is happening.
Yeah, I was looking for my statement. I was going to hold it up, but I can't find it, and I'm not going to.
Do we have any callers?
Rich has a comment. He says the problem is that if the price per share gets too high, they will not sell out. So there's a natural market give and take. And I think what he's really saying is that the market forces of supply and demand will find the right price for the fractional units within their own marketplace based on the amount of players and the liquidity, just like a bigger, more mature marketplace like eBay and card shows in our hobby in general will always find that price. We always see ups, and you look at the graph of any card, it's all over the place all the time, and so the forces of economics will come into play.
Yeah, and you mentioned marketplace. It's a good place to pivot to. I'm a seller, as many know, and Star Stock used to sponsor Sports Card Nation, but I'm on I've probably all total, not at one time, have put 1,200 cards on that platform. Every day I'm selling, I'm getting notifications. Where I'm going with this is Star Stock really is very quickly become one of the premier marketplaces, at least, and obviously for rookie cards, that's all they will accept. But I mean, they're making a lot of noise. Like I said, I looked in my account the other day. I got 23 cards left listed out of probably an original 1,200. Doing very well. You see other people posting on social media. I love the site. It's doing well. I don't want this to be an infomercial for them, but it has to be recognized, for as new as they are, to really sort of, be on that level that quickly. They just got Kevin Durant and an investment group just invested 1.3 seed money. And so they've really jumped in and hit the ground running. And I can attest to it as a user firsthand, doing very well with it, as are a lot of other people. I don't know if any of you, again, Jeremy, I know you're at a little bit of a disadvantage with the state stuff being in Canada, but even those out there in the chat room, if you want to come on, call in, talk about your experience there. But, when I had Nigel Eccles on my show way back in March, the site wasn't even live yet. And, I asked him point blank. I said, man, this is a tough foray to get into. You got your eBays and you got your ComCs already established with their heels dug in. Can you come in and just offering rookie cards? That was sort of I thought it was sort of a negative at the time. You're only going to have rookie, which are obviously the most desirable most of the time, but still that's all you're going to have. And can you go into this ring and trade blows with eBay and ComC and other platforms of that ilk? And he said, we got the right people in place. We got we got a plan, and we're gonna implement it. And I'm gonna be I told him this, I'm like, man, it's gonna be tough. He goes, well, we'll see. And here we are, less than a year later. That was March. They hadn't even launched really yet. They were in beta, and here we are a short time later. Not only are they competing, they're right there, thick and thin. So just does that surprise you guys? Those out there listening, your thoughts if you've used Star Stock, if you've not used them, what's everyone think?
Chris, you want to go first?
I haven't used Star Stock, so I'm probably not the one person to ask on this.
I can jump in.
Not really familiar, so yeah, you go ahead.
I got a few thoughts on it. So first of all, John, you mentioned that that they only offer rookies. You thought that was you thought it was a bit of a negative at first, and I can definitely see that. I think it certainly is narrower than eBay ComC, which will accept everything under the moon, which I think is great. But what I do like about it is they chose an alley. They picked their lane, and it's a niche lane, a very popular and big niche lane within the hobby. But by focusing on rookie cards, they are separating themselves from eBay, ComC, StockX, any other platform. So I think that's a smart move for them, because it's just they're gonna be identified with rookie cards. Another thing that I like that they're doing is that they have their own grading system for raw cards. So they'll take raw or graded cards. I think that's interesting. It just adds another layer of kind of gamification to their platform that people can get into. But I think the thing that really separates them the most is the fact that they are really appealing to the fantasy sport player who wants to buy and sell cards in real time during games. And you can do that on ComC too, but you can't really do it on eBay, because on eBay ownership doesn't transfer instantly. On Star Stock, ownership transfers instantly. So you can see your guy throw for a touchdown, go buy the cards on Star Stock, and then relist them for more money. It's like arbitrage at its finest in a way. And so they're not appealing. They're not a replacement for eBay or ComC. If you have a pile of cards and you want to convert them to cash, some are going to be better for eBay, some are going to be better for ComC, and some are going to be better for Star Stock. I think and some will be better to take to card shows with you at a future point in time. So I think it's just another platform that will really be good for certain things. And as dealers, we have to decide what cards will do best on what platform and send them there. And I think Star Stock certainly has a place moving forward in the hobby. As you've mentioned, John, they've grown pretty quickly and they're really catching on. Their social media is very effective as well.
Were any of you guys familiar with a website called thepit.com?
Yeah, I interviewed Mark Humphrey.
Like 30 years ago.
Yeah, like 2001, 2002-ish. But it never really caught on the way I think the original investors thought it would.
They may have been early.
Yeah.
Yeah. I interviewed Mark Humphreys from the Pit actually at the National 2 years ago in Chicago. And, I think he was at sort of a crossroads of what he knew there was going to be more people entering the fray. And so I think they've taken it on the chin. I don't want to, I haven't spoke to him since, but, it is only so much room. And Star Stocks come in, really cut out a niche. And what they've used, what I perceive, like Jeremy said, what I perceived as sort of a negative, just rookie cards, they've went ahead and used that as sort of a strong point. Like, hey, and you can trade, you can transact these in real time while watching the game. I think that's been a huge factor. Like Jeremy said, with the fantasy element to it, they've done competitions with hobbyists. Well-known folks to compete and almost in tournament style, and so they've kind of taken
and to publicize and get the brand right. Yeah. When they're doing a lot of things right, and like you said, the rookie card lane is if you could pick a lane for your platform, what other one? I mean, I think maybe autographs only or mem cards or something, but they pick the lane that is probably the most, everyone says the hobby is driven by rookies. Pretty smart to pick that lane.
Yeah. And I will tell you, as a user, again, when I've gotten cards from them, they come quick. And when I've subbed those 1,200 cards to them or sent 1,200, they were listed pretty quickly. And that's some of the bugaboos that's kind of other people are complaining about. Certain other sites. I get it. And so if you're going to do something better than someone, it's going to help your cause. And, we'll see. Right now, the traction and, I like them. I've just done just crazy well. I you see other posts like, hey, I've already got to send them more stuff. It's all sold out. I've sold more stuff than bought, quite frankly. And I'll be honest with you. I don't know how this happens, but I've sold stuff on Star Stock for more than it would have went on eBay, and I think that's a plus. And they handle obviously all the shipping. If I sold that same card on eBay, I might have got less on certain things, and I got to not that I mind, but get it wrapped up, put it in a bubble mail, or go to the post office. Stuff I do anyway on an almost everyday basis. But I always love selling on sites, ComC. Star Stock, where it kind of takes that shipping and they take care of that for you. There's a convenience there that it's hard to put a price on. I know a lot of other people feel similarly.
For sure. 1 Million Cubs Project says probably in respect to the Pit. He says, market wasn't ready for that 20 years ago. I wonder if that's the reason. I kind of mentioned that earlier. I think that's definitely a reasonable explanation. But then Bobby Baseball says, yes, part of it's timing, part of it is also the business execution or lack thereof. Yeah, I mean, you need timing. You need the timing to be right, the market to be ready for your product, your platform, whatever it is, and you need to be able to execute on your business plan. And your business plan needs to be solid as well.
Yeah, so, there were a lot of smart people with a lot of money behind thepit.com. I think one of them was Nicholas Negroponte, who was the director of the MIT Media Lab, who was one of the early investors. And if they couldn't get it to work 20 years ago, I don't know. Maybe they were.
Well, I mean, right now, I mean, right now the hobby's just booming. We have a lot of new people in, an influx of new hobbyists. I mean, the time's right. If you were ever going to launch a product, a hobby product, a platform, the timing, this is your year, or the next 2 or 3 years is probably when you want to make your entry, because I mean, everything's just being consumed at a breakneck level, almost everything, as long as it's got credence and done right. And Jason Kaiser, I love my slab. I love my slabs too. I use them. 1% selling fee. Again, an infomercial, but the lowest fee on, and I've moved actually most of my slab cards from eBay over to my slabs. And so there's so many of these platforms, guys. My Slabs, ComC, StarStock, eBay, StockX, they all sort of have their own little niches. And I use multiple. I don't just use StarStock. I use My Slabs. I'm still on eBay, even though I've moved a good chunk off of there. ComC, I got 1,000 cards on there, if not more. And so, I think use it, like you said, Jeremy, they have their own niche. You kind of use them as a seller. You can kind of utilize them all on what makes the best business sense for you and practicality of it. So now, I mean, no one's going away. Maybe the pit might be in trouble. Other ones we mentioned, you don't hear much about them at this point. But I mean, ComC's doing well. Obviously, eBay's the leading world marketplace, right, with Amazon. And so I don't think anyone's going away. I think why I brought this up too is just how quickly StarStock has done. And I didn't think it was going to happen. And so they've proven me wrong. I'm sure probably a few others as well.
I threw the link in the chat for Rich, who asked for it. I don't know why I don't see it coming, but I put on in the Facebook in the YouTube chat. I'm curious about My Slabs. John, I've heard of My Slabs, but I don't know much about it. I see the odd post on Instagram. I don't know if anyone, I don't want to, take up time if no one's interested, but I'm kind of interested if someone can give me a quick explanation of what it is and what their competitive advantage is relative to other platforms.
All right, I'll give you, I'm very familiar with them. I just had Matt Greeny on about a month ago, who's the founder and CEO. They sell slabs, or you sell slabs, and they now you can sell your wax on there. To be a seller on the site, you have to be vetted. And it's a process. They look at your eBay rating. They do reference checks, and so they don't just let anyone on. They got some rules, and it's 1% seller's commission. So if you sell something for $100, they get $1. You get 99. And so I've done very well with them. I know they're gaining traction as well in that genre with slabs. They only take graded cards and wax, and they don't actually take it. That's the other difference with them. Like my slabs that are listed on there are here. They're just listed on there. When I get the notification that one has sold, I have to package it up and get it out. But you pay 1%, and compared to that same card selling on eBay, it's a big difference. And they've really gained a lot of traction, especially in the grading card market. I asked Matt, any thoughts to maybe going past grading and having, unslabbed cards? And he said, right now, that's kind of what they've built their premise on. And they stand behind every sale. So if you get into the raw cards, it's a little bit trickier. Basically it's easier. If you buy a Zion Williamson Prism 9 from me, PSA 9, and I send you that, there's no problem. But if I send you anything other than that, it's easier to prove. With raw cards, like he said, it just opens up the floodgates to, hey, I saw this in the picture, and that's not what I was sent.
Yeah.
And they don't want to get they're like he said, they don't want to get into the middle of that. They're pretty busy. They're a small organization in comparative to others, and so I don't think they want to bite off more they can chew. But they're doing real well, and I can speak from me listing on the site. I've done very well, especially I've sold some wax there. I've sold graded cards both, and that one, when you sell something and you only have to pay 1% commission, That's always a good day. So Rich is at the door knocking. I don't know if I'll let him in. There he
Hey
is.
there.
Hey,
there.
it's Uncle Rich.
Happy New Year. We were supposed to have a show today, but due to various issues, I think you can guess what they were. It did not happen. So I just wanted to say hi. And, considering what occurred this week in our nation's capital, it's wonderful to have a place where we can put that all aside for an hour, hour and a half, and just share our hobby information and our hobby love, and talk about things that interest people that cross all political and all other spectrums. So I just wanted to start with that, and it's such a pleasure to hear this conversation.
Well said, Rich. Thanks for bringing us back to earth too from our hobby. Our hobby.
So, Rich, did you come on? Did you want to talk politics? Is that
No? I do not want to talk politics. I have enough of that during the week with what I listen to at work, and I mean, I listen to a lot of things on all sides, and I think Pete's just said it. It's a release for us, and I'm thrilled we all have this release.
Yeah.
And we can talk about Star Stock, and I posted Rich Muller's article, that came after the Durant and the other $1.3 million money into Star Stock, and I think what we're really saying is we're maturing as a hobby. I mean, I've been doing this since before dirt was invented, but I think we're maturing where we truly are discovering there's room for people like Chris and I, who are, let's say, more old school nickel and dime collectors, and people who have very successful jobs, like Jeremy and John, that are making really good money, and that they want to play in other fields as well. There's room for all of us. And again, we're crossing spectrums. And there's yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And this is going to be an exciting year because we're hitting tomorrow. We're hitting it in real time. And I think that's part of what's so exciting is we don't know where everything's going to go.
Agree.
Yeah, I've said that, Rich. I've done this 30 plus years now, and I couldn't have predicted 2020, and who knows what's next. And it used to be Rich knows, and Jeremy, Chris, we all know we've been in this hobby a long time. There was a point in the hobby years ago you could leave for 2 years, come back, and actually not really miss too much, and not need to be kind of brought up to speed. You can't do that anymore. You go away for 3 months, you got a lot of catching up to do. And so it's a different hobby. I think it's bigger. You're seeing it kind of transcend lines into, you got celebrities and athletes talking about it and doing it. You've got now with Project 2020 this year. Art has always been involved in cards, even from the early Bowman days, but we really saw the art world really kind of take a forefront, come to the front, and you see now those artists from those projects and other projects kind of get into the card world, and some are making their own cards now as well. And so this thing is just no matter what you like or enjoy, there's something for everyone. There's always been, but there's just more now for everyone. And like you said, Rich, whatever, it's a great outlet, man, to escape some of the mundane and negative stuff that's going on out there, whatever it is. Some people play an instrument, some people go to the gym 8 days a week, like myself, right? But this, other people, it's the hobby. I'm kidding about the gym part.
But no, John, you go to your hot tub 8 days a week, right?
I love that. I do. But so that's the beauty of the hobbies. No matter what way you want to enjoy it, graded, no graded. Fractional shares, I don't like them. I collect team sets, or I collect all that team, whatever it is. We could go on 20 minutes just with all those kind of niches, but whatever you like to enjoy the hobby is there's room for everybody. And podcasts, plenty of those now. There's plenty of everything for everyone, and it's great. And I enjoy, like you said, Rich, coming on here once every month, and getting to chat with people, kind of seeing what people are feeling out there and thinking and discussing.
Chris, you wanted to say something?
I'd like to make a comment on something Rich said, and then I want to answer a question that somebody in the chat just wrote. My office is 6 blocks away from the Capitol. I haven't actually been in my office in 10 months because of COVID, but to see literally fascism on the march 6 blocks away from where I work this week was I just couldn't believe that our country's come to that. So with that said, there's a question in the comments that I wanted to answer. Cardboard Max, why don't they make foil cards anymore, like clear metal? It's because it's expensive to make etched foil cards. And in the case of the Dufex, the company that made Dufex cards for Pinnacle in the 90s doesn't exist anymore. And I think card companies over the last 15 to 20 years have started putting their money into making game-used cards and autographed cards so that fancy cards like etched foil, frosted foil, and Dufex cards really aren't worth the money anymore. Would I like to see etched foil cards make a comeback? Yes, but in these times, I don't think they're going to.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of acetate cards, the Clearview, the Clear Vision, the old EX cards had that sort of see-through to them. I like to see more of those. I know that there's some brands come out with a little bit of that. I'd love to see, Clear Vision again. Well, we saw a little bit of that with Donruss clearly Donruss and some other products, but I have a spot for those. So I think you're going to see. I think that's one thing 2021, 2022 is going to bring is maybe some more innovativeness into product releases. And so, and it's like fashion, right? Bell bottoms used to be in style and they went out of style and then they came back. I think we're going to see, Topps obviously does that with the heritage lines and archives. I think we're going to see even other companies start to bring stuff back that was, popular, the foil and that sort of stuff, the acetate, or let's take both my idea and Chris's idea, make a foil acetate card. So,
John,
to
answer your question on clear cards, and Jeremy can confirm this, because I identify a lot of these cards. Upper Deck does a complete parallel of their flagship.
Yeah, clear cut.
And I mean, it's a complete parallel. So
yeah, I love that stuff.
It's a wonder. And those are really sharp looking cards. When I look at them, I say, these are nice. It takes a lot for me to say these are nice when I'm identifying 3,000-4,000 cards a day. It's a lot for me to say, wait a second, this looks different. This looks really cool. So, let's give Upper Deck props for that. And I agree with you. But Topps has done that.
Yeah, with the archive signatures.
So there's a lot to be said there.
One of my understandings is that at Upper Deck that they started to recognize that the hit, like the autograph as a hit, is losing a lot of its luster, and that the hobby, maybe in particular the hockey segment, wanted the rare chase card again, the case hit, the Easter egg, the rare insert. And so, to Chris's comment, that there may be, that they realize that the Dufex, the foil print, the foil stock, or however they constructed those, was expensive and maybe not worth it, and they're focusing on autographs and mem. I think that Upper Deck, at least as one of the major card companies with the license, is starting to really try to bring out the insert and the technology card, as they refer to them. I'm a huge fan, Rich, of die-cut cardboard on an acetate background, or die-cut acetate on a cardboard background. Like, something like this card I have right here. You know, there's a die cut on the or this is an EX die cut on orange acetate. I love this stuff. I would way prefer this, and I'll pay a lot more money for this than I would for a sticker autograph on an ugly card. So I'm happy Upper Deck took that direction, and now they're coming out with a new product in April called Skybox Metal Universe. There's a ton of
very 90s. I tell you, Sky, you want to hit the 90s, you've just hit it there. And so there's a lot to be said for doing a product with that name.
And I just hope it's free of all autographs. We don't need autographs. Like, there's enough autographs, especially if they're just like what people have referred to in the past as sticker dumps and that kind of thing. Leave them out. Give us an autograph free card. They did a product called Synergy. It just came out for, I think it's 4th year in a row. And the first couple of years, the base cards were the chase cards. They were numbered to 17 in the first year, 18 in the second year, 2017, 17 copies. And they're die cut cardboard on acetate. Beautiful, beautiful cards. The hockey guys didn't really love them because Synergy just didn't it didn't really take off well. But in the 3rd year, they started putting sticker autographs on some of these, and I was collecting the base cards because they were rare. Well, as soon as they put autographs on it, I'm out. Not interested. Ruined the card for me. So again, just saying that autographs are not to me the hit of choice anymore. Now, if it's a Wayne Gretzky or a Sidney Crosby or a LeBron James or one of those guys, of course you're going to prefer that. But as far as collectors, and a lot of us, we also invest in like Hall of Famers or whatever, but we also collect sets because it's fun. It's what we grew up on. I still collect a lot of sets. I collect sets that interest me, and they're usually insert sets because I don't really care about no-name players anymore. So, I think the hobby's kind of moving away from the autograph as a necessary hit. I don't know that the overall hobby is. I hope it is, but for me, I know I am. At least I can speak to that.
Okay, I'll go back. There was also a question in the comments. Somebody was asking about retail. I stopped at Walmart on Friday. There's a Walmart near where I walk at Willow Bend, which is the first, which I always say is the first Walmart in this country that sold both wine and sushi. No comments about sushi, but it's actually decent at Walmart. That one was actually pretty decent when they opened because they knew the pressure they were under. But I went there because I was curious and I had a little extra money, courtesy of my paycheck, and I didn't want to overspend, but I wanted to buy something. They had, in terms of unopened sports boxes, two 2020 Topps Update boxes and nothing else on the shelves. For people wanting to buy even the cheap blasters that are I'm going to use the word dogs, and that's not the right word, but that are not great product. You can't even find those. And there's a inherent problem because a lot of people around the country need I have 4 stores within a half hour of me. I can buy a card. I can buy a card pretty easily, but there's an inherent problem if you're not near a place where there's a card store and the big boxes are where you get them. And there's nothing there because people are just scooping them all up just to buy for resale, which is fine. It's the American way. There's the famous John Newman story about the woman who, to the victor, gets the spoils. But it's a legitimate issue. And I know we bandy this about, but it is a legitimate issue about not being able to give people an entree into. If you're already in the hobby, you'll figure out a way. But if you're not, that's your entree in.
Well, we can do a whole show on. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be doing probably a hobby quick hit. There's going to be some changes on the retail level. I think some will be good. Some will be, the jury will be out until we see how that goes. I just bought 3 boxes. Stadium Club is my favorite brand, and they did the Chrome edition this year. And I'm not getting it by walking in, like you said, Rich. I'm not getting that product by walking into Walmart or Target. So I went on Target's website and bought 3 blasters and opened one last night, did well. And that's, to those listening, whether you're listening in the room or in podcast form, it might take a little work, but, go to Target and Walmart website and see what you can get that route. You got to have them shipped to you, but it's worth the wait. I bought those 3 blasters, $19.99 piece. I think shipping was like $3 or $4. And so for $65, I had 3 Stadium Club chrome blasters. Are you going to get Prism like that? Probably not, but you don't know until you try. And so it's worth the effort. I used to when I used to open a lot more, I used to pre-order a lot of stuff that I knew I was going to rip. We've had some issues with pre-orders, with companies canceling people's pre-orders again. So that's always not the best option, but it's still an option. So if you know there's something you want to rip, the earlier you know that and you can kind of lock in, the better off you can be. Well, I made everyone speechless. So,
John, you did great. By the way, so I'll tie this together. We got to get Chris on someday. But Jeremy's got one of my mentors in life, Dr. Beckett, on tonight. So I do want to give a shout out to that. For part 2, that'll be fun to hear. That was a flying hour you did with him 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a great time with him.
Yeah, and I know that you were still going, but Jim's got his own time schedule, and that was what he wanted, and we honor that. And John, I heard your tribute to him about Floyd Little, a class act yesterday. That was very well done. Now, Chris, we got to get you on with that. And yeah, I know I got
a lot of free time on my hand,
Yeah, I know. But there's a lot going on in this business, and I think we are also we talk about this. We're also blessed. Think about and skip me, but think about the volume and diversity of the people who were on for the whole hour today, talking for free and sharing about the hobby. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And once upon a time, you couldn't get this type of information even if you paid for it. And now so many of us are providing free content that's really good to people to learn more about this hobby. And I wonder if that's a major reason why we've also had such an explosion this year, is that with everybody having more time, we've expounded the world and said, let's share what we know instead of keeping it to ourselves.
I think it's a big part of it, Rich. Because it adds excitement too, right? If you can feed your hobby habit, sensory desire by watching and listening to podcasts, video podcasts, as a lot of us are doing now, interview shows, it keeps you focused and it keeps you excited. Instagram, you're scrolling through, you're looking at pretty cards all the time. You're almost training yourself to want to buy more cards, and that increases demand, which increases prices. So I don't think you're wrong. I think we've all kind of recognized that the 2020, the pandemic, has really triggered a lot of what we're seeing. So yeah, I mean, it's we're in uncharted territories. This isn't a repeat of the early 90s. It's something different altogether. The landscape is completely different. So exciting to see what comes up in 2020. As you mentioned, Rich, and I thank you for the shout out. I do have Dr. James Beckett on with me tonight on my channel, and we're going to look forward to 2020 and take a few comments and questions as well. So I'm looking forward to continuing our discussion from 2 weeks ago later this evening. Can I shout out Cardboard Max in the comments? Made a couple comments that I just
go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, he says this was at 10 o'clock on the notes there. Johnny says art plus cards equals Metal Universe, which I completely agree with. Those are all the Metal Universes that we've seen are always full of really creative designs that I really like. And then he goes on to say essential credentials, cardboard and acetate. Again, I'm a huge fan of cardboard and acetate combination, the technology type of cards, as I've heard Upper Deck refer to them as. So just wanted to sort of point those comments out. There's lots of great comments coming through, though.
Yeah. Well, that we went past the hour, so we got to pay extra light bill, but that's okay. Like Jeremy said, great banter.
Over an hour.
We do, but I like to make it like we don't. It's kind of the Seinfeld skit. But a lot of great comments in the chat room, guys. I mean, if again, you're always welcome to call in, but we do appreciate those comments as well. Remember, this is an audio. If you're listening to this right now and in an audio podcast form, remember we're live every Saturday. I'll just say 11 a.m. Eastern. You can do the math on the other time zones. But call in, whatever you want to discuss, and we appreciate you downloading the show. We appreciate those of you in the chat room spending over an hour with us.
Hey, John, tell the podcast listeners, you can join it, but you go to YouTube and search Hobby Hotline. That's where this show is broadcast.
And if you do that, hit the like button and subscribe.
Yeah, go YouTube, Hobby Hotline. You just search it. You'll find us. Hit the like button, subscribe. If you call in and you want to see yourself on the screen and be a YouTube celebrity, some of those guys make millions of dollars. You might get your start here. I don't know. But all joking aside, is like we talked about, content is in all forms. This show is video, audio, live, not live, any way you want to consume it. And if you're consuming it, whatever way you're consuming it, we do appreciate it. We thank you for your time, live or taped, either or. We appreciate it. Thanks for spending some time with us this morning here, Saturday, and we'll see you in a week. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Later. Man, that was a good show.